to the Daily Review. This is Razak, Senior Trading Strategist here at CM Trading. And today is December 5th, 2023, and today is Tuesday morning. So looking at the highlights of the day, the markets retrace, and that's quite natural, especially since we've had a nice run-up. But first, looking at today's major economic events, so at 5 p.m. South African time, out of the United States, we have an ISM Services PMI number coming out. Now looking at the various markets, starting out with the Forex symbols, the euro retracing versus the dollar. And as we look at those indices, the Dow Jones also retracing while the NASDAQ slides lower. Now looking at commodity, gold also retracing while oil remains unchanged. And as we look at the stocks, it's mostly the tech stocks that are leading the markets lower. Now lastly, looking at cryptocurrency, also subject to retracing as well. So markets, like I said, retracing almost across the board. So let's take a look at the markets and see what we can expect from today's trading. So here we go. We're looking at the Euro USD, and it's almost retracing to its 50% point, which would be somewhere at this 107.33-ish level. So we're still off of that, about 70 pips above it. So keep that in mind, as this is still just at a point of retracement. And however, it may still bounce. Okay, so keep that in mind, especially the GBP looking a little bit stronger than the euro is vis-a-vis the dollar. And for a long time, the British pound was much weaker. Now, earlier this morning, we had a rate statement from Australia. You can see nothing really big has happened. Okay, we're looking at a daily chart, and just this morning, we just further sold off. Now, if we sell off below the 65.50-ish level, that would be something very interesting. And then I would say, hey, maybe it'll retrace even to 65.17. Okay, not big moves, not massive kind of moves. So everything's already factored in, especially as we go into the end of the year. Now, jumping into commodities, gold remaining somewhat unchanged, 2,034. It retraced a little bit from yesterday as it went down from 2050-ish level, but not something crazy. Okay, what I mean by crazy is more than 20-30 points, as this did retrace. Okay, it did have some activity in it, but nothing massively unexpected. Okay, especially since we had this massive move on the upside. Now looking at crude oil remaining unchanged and using this support level at $73-ish, to keep that in mind, that we may see a bounce off of these levels. Now jumping into the US markets first, the Dow Jones. Okay, so the Dow Jones 36,179. If we look at that a little bit better, there we go. You could see it a little bit clearer there. It's right there on its all-time high. So for it to retrace a little bit, completely understandable. Okay, now looking at the NASDAQ though, it retraced further down. Okay, this is what's interesting, because this hit 16,000 and then petered out. Okay, which I would have expected it actually to be the leader. Now this may be a fake out where it's going to try and fake people out, and then all of a sudden it's going to go. So keep that in mind as well. Like looking at Microsoft, that's a pretty decent retracement for Microsoft from 383 down to 364. That's almost 20 points. So that's a pretty decent retracement there. So there's a lot of room to make it back up. If we look at Facebook, also retracing and selling off, but gapping down, but closing up the gap, which is a bullish formation. Look at Apple, also unchanged and just consolidating in this area. So there has been so much of a slump. Okay, if you look at NVIDIA, that one has been the most prominent one, to 454 from its high of 504. So that's really a big retracement there, almost a 10%-ish retracement. So keep that in mind. Now looking at the big board stocks, JP Morgan did retrace, but nothing big. This is what's important to note here. It did sell off a little bit, but nothing really massive to say, oh, it's selling off. In fact, it's very close to its highs here. Okay, yearly highs. If you look at a weekly high, it's not almost, it's in the range. Okay, 157 to 172 is not just not such a big leap, but we are on resistance-ish levels. So keep that in mind. Now, lastly, let's take a look at Bitcoin. Bitcoin took a little bit of a retracement yesterday to 41,527. However, looking at a weekly, it's still there. Okay, it still could go higher, possibly even to 50K. Okay, so keep that in mind, as that still is an option. Because once this takes off, it takes off, especially if it's going with this type of velocity on the upside. Just be wary with it, because it can change on a dime as well. And it's a little bit harder to tell with Bitcoin because there's less fundamentals in it and more action play, meaning you're looking to trade it more from the volatility standpoint as opposed to the technical standpoint. This is Razak. I want to wish you guys a great trading day. Thank you.